Hello. Sorry, some technical difficulties this afternoon, shall I say. Welcome back to the fan show. I'm doing this because Chris is in the air at the moment on his way to Hong Kong. So anybody wants to come on and chat, absolutely fine. You can talk about whatever you want to do. You can talk about transfers. You can talk about the friendlies, whatever. This is really your show. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. If you want to get involved, please do so. Without no further ado, we're going to get on our first guest of the afternoon, and it's Alex. How are you, Alex?
Hi, afternoon, Craig. How you doing?
Not too bad. Apologies for the technical issues, but I think we started on time, more or less. So, hello, everyone. Hello, Alex. What do you want to talk to us about today?
With
Tottenham, the list endless.
There's a lot. But yeah, and I'll try and be kind of concise. Yeah, I mean, Morgan Gibbs-White, what a absolute farce. I mean, honestly, will we just use as like a stalking horse all along? Did he have any real intention of coming? Or did Marinakis hold him over a barrel about something? I mean, we don't know, do we? But
he is a strange one, isn't it? Because I genuinely thought, and I said in quite a few videos, that I thought that this was going to get done. I thought it was just a matter of time and just some legalities about it. And it was a bit of a surprise last night when the news broke. What do you think really happened, Alex? Do you think it was? I mean, because in my mind, I might be wrong, but if Morgan Gibbs-White really wanted this move to Spurs, he should have pushed for it, and he clearly, for whatever reason, didn't. Now, whether that's he didn't want to upset the Forest fans or whether he just didn't want the move enough, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. There's an argument for both sides, isn't there? Really. Yeah, maybe he was using us, like I said, as a stalking horse all along for a better contract. Maybe he did want the move, but he was somehow pressurized into staying. I mean, yeah, who knows? Obviously, there was personal stuff going on as well. It's such a shame. I mean, he would have undoubtedly added, that quality that we needed in the middle of the park, that extra kind of bite, that we're lacking right now. I mean, yeah, it doesn't kind of, the world doesn't end with MGW. There are certainly other options out there. But yeah, it's a real shame. I mean, we're all kind of expecting it to happen. We got the here we go and all of that, and
that's it.
How many times has that been wrong? Not many. So
well, that's it. I mean, when those Fabrizio Romano utters those three words, you kind of think he's set in stone. But he has got a couple wrong. No fault of his own, of course. But he just goes on the information he's been given. And at the time, just after Kudus, that news comes through and everybody's excited. And then it just seems to have fallen a bit flat, doesn't it? I mean, did you watch any of the friendlies yesterday, Alex?
I saw the highlights.
Right. Okay. And what was your thoughts on the games?
Couldn't really read too much into it, to be honest. Yeah, kind of glorified warm-ups, weren't they, really? Yeah. Bit of a yeah, I do kind of like what Thomas Frank has done there, two friendlies in one day, getting the minutes into the legs of, pretty much all of the squad, which is great. Dom Solanke again, I don't know, when he was at Bournemouth, I seem to recall he was pretty robust there. And since he's come to us, he's is he suddenly made of tissue paper now? Or
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think players do come to Spurs with almost flawless injury records, and then it seems there's something to do with Tottenham, isn't it? It's a strange one, certainly. But I mean, I would hope under the way Frank plays that there wouldn't be as much strain on Mickey van der Ven's hamstrings, for example. He's not chasing back. We're not necessarily playing that high line all the time. So I would hope that changes a bit. And I don't know about the friendlies are, like you say, it's just minutes in the legs, and we as fans obviously want a stellar performance in every single game, and it's not necessarily about that. But I didn't see much in those friendlies yesterday, really. I thought the first one was a bit better, certainly attack-wise, but I thought the Luton game was pretty poor on the whole, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, from what I could kind of glean from the highlights, yeah, not kind of too much to write home about. Yeah, like you say, good point about Van der Ven. Will play more pragmatically, and yeah, hopefully he'll be saved any more hamstrings and whatnot. And yeah, generally throughout the squad, actually, a lot less injuries, we hope. But yeah, I mean, look, going back in to the transfer window, we've got what, a month or so left, give or take.
Yeah.
There doesn't seem to be anything kind of like cooking.
No, that's a worry, isn't it? That
that
is
is
the
a worry.
worry.
That is a worry, which kind of leads me on to my next point. If you can allow me the time very quickly.
Yeah, carry on.
So obviously, currently we have Johan Lange, is it? Langer?
Langer, yeah.
Yeah, in situ. And there's a lot of talk around Paratici coming back into the fold. Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, but don't they essentially do the same job? Now, I know Thomas Frank is obviously close. He has a close relationship with Langer. Where does that kind of, does it change the dynamic at all? Yeah, it's all a bit kind of concerning. Yet another change in strategy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, essentially they probably do. I don't actually know what Johan Langer's effective job title is, but they both do the same job essentially. So whether Paratici comes in above Langer, who knows? Because obviously Scott Munn's departed, but Vinay Venkatesham's come in. So how's that all going to work? I'd imagine there's still spaces there. I mean, out of the two, I liked the way Paratici worked. He had templates spinning almost, and then deals ready to go. And then Langer works in a different way. It's like very, very quiet behind the scenes. And that's how really the Morgan Gibbs White thing, although it didn't come out of nowhere, didn't it, really? So, two very different people and different ways of working. But in answer to your question, I don't know how that would work, but that's up to Daniel Levy to sort out, isn't it? So, anything else you want to have a moan about, Alex, or discuss, or players that you want to see come in, perhaps?
I'd like to see Palhinha come in. I think he'd be a good short-term sign-in for us, even if we can arrange a loan deal. I think it's kind of being touted around in the press currently. I think that would serve us well in the short term. Yeah, do you know what? I don't know if this is a bit left field or not, and I haven't heard any chat around it, but I'd love to get Cliver in from Bournemouth.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I haven't heard anything myself, but yeah. Why have
No,
you,
nor me.
this is just your thoughts, right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just like a kind of private wish list. I really rate him. I think he could, serve us really well. And obviously, competition for Dom up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know
that's what I want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, cool. And what are your thoughts on Sonny from seeing quite a few videos recently? I know you're quite a fan, but
yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because we're all being, most of us will be to some extent. It's you just remember the player in his heyday, don't you, and what he's done for the club. So there's that sentimentality about it, and I guess you can't be like that, really. We can all see that there has been sadly a little bit of a drop off from Sonny. And even looking in the friendly yesterday, he didn't look himself. It says to me that everything's pointing towards him leaving the club, sadly, after the tour. So where he goes, obviously LAFC is one that's made contact. So I think it would probably be good for Son. I think it'd be good for him to end his career in America. And let's face it, he's a club legend. This is just my opinion, but club legend. He'll be welcome back. I'm sure he'll be back at some point and in some capacity at the club. But there comes a time where you have to move on. What do you feel about Sonny?
Yeah, similar. Although I don't know, is it me or have we got this kind of habit of holding on to players far too long? Personally, I would have probably tried to sell him on 3 seasons back or so. Yeah, obviously it would have been without a trophy, but yeah, I'm afraid I'm quite a hardliner. Yeah, I
Perhaps
think
we need that. Perhaps
we've
we need a
seen
bit
like,
more of that.
yeah, maybe, yeah. We've seen like a general, steady
Yeah.
decline in Son and one or two others, and yeah. I mean, what will we get for him now? 20 odd mil, if that, maybe.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
I appreciate all the kind of commercial sort of things that he brings to the club, but yeah, I think ultimately it matters on the pitch, and that's where we need to kind of prioritise.
We certainly do. Well, thanks for coming on today, Alex. You're welcome back anytime we do one of these, and hopefully next time we'll all be in a bit of a better mood and not. It's weird, isn't it? It's not I'm in a bad mood, but I'm not very excited at the moment because there's not much happening. But hopefully that will change. Alex, thanks for coming on, mate, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks very much for having me. Thanks, Craig.
No problem. Bye, mate. Thanks to Alex. Right, next we're going to get on Josh. Josh, how are you?
Hi, Craig. How are you?
I'm all good.
Thanks for having me on. It's the first time on the show, and I actually haven't even been on the YouTube Live before, so I haven't even seen what anyone looks like.
I hope we don't disappoint you. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Where are you from, Josh?
New York.
Oh, right. You're in New York, still in New York at the moment, are you? Or
yeah.
Is that where
Yeah,
you
I'm still
originate from?
In the city.
Oh, great.
I wish I was joining feeling a little bit better. Obviously, the Morgan Gibbs White news is very disappointing.
Yes.
It's just, I can't help but think it's like if we went after him and really wanted him and it didn't seem like a bargain at the $60 million release price, we would have offered a little bit more above it instead of just trying to been, bargain hunting. And there would have been more of a plan there, and maybe there would have been a different outcome. I don't know, but it just seems like we're kind of looking for deals instead of actually going after players that we want. And then like at a certain price point, it's like you're talking about 60, 70, 80 some odd $1 million. It's not like we're reselling these players for more than we're buying them for. We're buying these players because we want them and they're going to improve the team, especially the first squad team. And it's just giving me, the feeling that we haven't really changed our philosophy, and we're kind of just still kind of in the same place that we were, with Mourinho, Conte, and, everyone else. It's like not even a manager problem at this point. It's just it's just we're looking for deals, and we really need to improve the first team. So disappointing.
Nothing has changed. Nothing. Well, yeah, I think you're right. That you hit the nail on the head there. Nothing's changed, and I sit here season after season thinking, well, it surely has to be different this year. Like 2 summers ago when Ange came in, it's got to be different. And they got in Vicario, they got in Madison, and it started to look good. But for me, it always seems that we are at least 2 players short every single transfer window. And we're certainly still way short at the moment. We've essentially only really been in Kudus that improves the first team, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that. I know we bought obviously Takai and that. So, Tell and, just to finish on that, Tell was obviously already here, even though he wasn't official, he was on loan, but he's not a new player is what I'm getting at. And obviously Danzo there's an obligation to buy him anyway. So really for me, Takai coming in, great for the future. But for now, it's only Kudus, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And Kudus, I think, is a great player, and he's an exciting player, very dynamic. But we're adding him, like he's a right winger, and we're adding him to a side where Brennan Johnson was our leading goal scorer last year, and Kulusevski plays there too. So we're a bit clogged on the right side. And like you said, it's, we have Son, sadly, he's been on the decline for a few seasons now, and he's 33 years old. And it's like, we have these same gaps that we've been talking about at, a dynamic winger, left wing, backup striker, and a number 6. It's like, I was watching, sorry to jump around, but I don't even know why I did this to myself, but I was watching the last North London derby at White Hart Lane. And our number 6s were Eric Dyer and Wanyama. That's not a creative bunch at your two defensive anchors there. but that was a solid defensive anchors with creative wingers. Obviously, you know, that team is special, but it's like we've been talking about the same issues for, you know, since Pochettino really left. And it's like I'm concerned that we're just going around looking for deals that are opportunistic versus like having a clear plan, you know, with the manager that we want to back, so we can have like that success again. We got really unlucky with injuries last year. Everything went wrong, like to the extreme. You know, this team will not finish in 17th. Like we have a good first team. You know, we have good players. But like with what we have now, it's like we're marginally better with Kudus in the squad. Probably won't have as many injuries. And it's like, what are we going to finish in 10th, 11th, 8th, 9th? It's just wish we showed some ambition like they spoke about when they, they went out with Vinay and Levy and said, we want to win things, you know?
It's a weird thing, isn't it? That this whole club. I don't know how long you've been a fan, Josh, but
For a long time.
Right? Yeah. Well, I've been a fan for. Well, I'm 52, right? So as probably, I don't know, 45 years, I'm guessing. Yeah. And it kind of, it's like we were saying before, it never changes. You know, these transfer. What annoys me. And I don't know what your views are on this, but when you see the clubs around us, like your Liverpools, even Manchester United, right? But Liverpool, City, Arsenal, they're doing good business, you know? And we do a lot of things well. But this transfer window and subsequent transfer before, you know, we just haven't done it, have we?
Yeah. I'm trying to be more optimistic because I'm sure they've had to have known that this, Morgan Gibbs White thing wasn't gonna happen. So surely they have some plans. It's just, I really hope the solutions aren't like, and nothing against, like, I'm just using this as an example, like because I still rate Odegaard, but it's like, I just don't want another unproven young 21, 22, 23-year-old. Because that's not going to improve the team, and it's just we're going to be in the same spot that we were. Like I really hope they have some solutions. Morgan Gibbs White, we go from signing Kudus for the next day, triggering this release clause, and then that falls through, and it's like we win the Europa League, then we wait around for a week and a half, 2 weeks, end up sacking Ange, and then don't even hire a manager for another week and a half. It's like, if we can find a way to deflate, we'll just do that. You know, it's
interesting. Look, Ellington puts a really good point here. Morgan Gibbs White and his agent used Spurs to get a new deal. We should have a plan B ready to go. I'm sure we have a couple of deals ready to pop. It's an interesting, I'll take that in two parts if you want. Do you think Gibbs White and his agent used Tottenham or to get a new deal at Forest? Or do you think it seemed like he wanted to come, didn't it?
You know, it's a strange one. Release clauses are just strange in general. I think I got scared when Marinakis threatened legal. He's very litigious, and people who are litigious are usually litigious for a reason because they win a lot. So the minute like that came out, that scared me. And I think Morgan Gibbs White has played well there. I'm sure that there were a lot of factors, and it just proved to be too complicated. And I think he may have won one over on us, to be honest. And the outcome's good for Morgan Gibbs White. He gets a pay raise. He probably gets to leave next summer, and Nottingham Forest is going to get more than $60 million for him. So it's not looking great for us, I don't think, on this one.
And the second part of that point, do you think there is a plan B? Do you think there's deals ready to go?
I think there are. I just hope it's not that like $25 to $40 million bracket of unproven talent that's gonna just, we need to improve. We need to bring, if we want to have the ambitions that Levy and the new CEO came out and said, we need to bring in players that can compete with I'm not even saying like Liverpool, Man City. Like we can't, compete with Villa and Newcastle. Like that's where we have to be because we're off it right now.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely, and we want to. Well, we certainly want to finish higher up that table this coming season, don't we? And could we even make the top 4? At the moment, I think we're miles off, to be honest. I don't think we're anywhere near that. But Thomas Frank, you would hope would give us a bit more solidity in the Premier League. But if they're not going to back him, why did they sack Ange in the first place? Because essentially, I'll keep saying it, one first-team player over the line. So how many players do you think we need and what positions, Josh?
We need to find another creative winger. We need a backup striker. We need a backup left back, and we need a number 6 defensive midfielder who can start next to Bentancur, next to Bergvall. That's a lot of needs. I mean, that's 4 or 5 players. I just don't know where the goals are going to come from. And Brennan Johnson being your leading scorer that's not ideal. He's a direct wing. Like, it's not ideal.
Well, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head again there. I mean, I've always said we need another number 9 to push Solanke. Obviously, Richarlison, I love his passion, absolutely love his passion, but he can't stay fit. So I would, is Richarlison going to go? If he does, we need to bring in another forward. And so we need somebody to push Solanke. You need somebody on Solanke's level, at least, don't you? But yeah, there's a lot of issues to fix at Tottenham, that's for sure. Josh, is there anything else you want to talk about today?
No, thanks for having me on. This was a pleasure. I guess my last thing is just like, when have we ever sold a player for a profit anyways? Like let's go out and get the guy that we want. You know what I mean? Like, other than Bale and Kane, like, when have we actually bought someone and sold someone for $10-15 million more? Like, it's just...
Yeah, Kane was certainly probably the last, and before him definitely was Bale. But yeah, a lot of work to be done. Josh, thanks for coming on. More than welcome to come back on at any other time. You've been a really good guest, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Josh. Bye.
Bye.
Right, we're going to go to Jake. Hello, Jake. How are you?
Hello, Craig. I'm all right, mate. How you doing?
I'm all good. What would you like to talk to us about
I'd like
today?
To have, with the risk of sounding like your friend Brian Daigle, I'd like to have a bit of a moan about the board and Mr. Levy in particular, because I'm just feeling really fed up and bemused, mate, with this whole Morgan Gibbs-White saga, the whole kind of sacking Ange, coming out and saying we want to compete for the Premier League and the Champions League, and then all these rumours of 200-300 million to spend. I started to believe for the first time in years that we were going to compete. And the last few weeks, I just feel like we're getting left so far behind our rivals now. It's ridiculous. The players Woolwich Wanderers have signed, they're only going to get better on last season. Chavsky are buying some great players as well. Newcastle and Villa, I think, have got great managers and squads. Even your teams like Brighton are doing well, not to mention Liverpool and City, and they're just this farce. It feels like every transfer window, seems like we wait till the last bloody minute to get players in, and there's no rhyme or reason, and it's just so short-sighted. Because if we get the players in a bit early and we pay what clubs want, might cost us an extra £5 million for the player or an extra £10 million for the player. But if they get them in early and they can settle and they can have a pre-season, then I bet you we'd finish higher in the Premier League and we get more Premier League money, and we'd probably have a better run in Europe as well, and we get that money from Europe as well. So it probably balances out in my eyes. Whereas if we wait to the last day or whatever, those players are probably not going to settle in. It's going to take them 6 months, a year to settle in. Whereas if we got them in early, like real big clubs do, went out there into the transfer market with some intent, those players would have a much better chance of hitting the ground running in my eyes. So yeah, just pretty pissed off. I've just renewed my membership, 45 quid on Spurs play. all of that. I was feeling really excited a couple of weeks ago. I thought, yep, we got Kudus, Morgan Gibbs-White, who's next? Wharton, Paulinho, Wissa, bring them all on. And now I'm just like crashing back down to earth with a bump, mate. It's not even that just about Gibbs-White as a player. It's just the whole farce around it. Do you know what I mean?
It is. But who do you ultimately blame for that? Because there'll be people blaming Daniel Levy. I'm not entirely convinced it's Daniel Levy's fault, by the way. I think it's possibly the recruitment team, but who knows? Who? I mean, it's not Spurs' fault that this release clause was leaked. It could be Spurs' fault if they've gone in with the exact amount, because you'd like to think it wasn't £60,000 on the nose. It could have been £60,000 11 pence or something like that. And I can't believe, with all the experience Tottenham have, that they would have gone in bang with that number, because that does look a bit sus, doesn't it? But who do you blame for this? Because for me, it is the recruitment team. Not just this, by the way. It's surely Thomas Frank would have wanted at least 2 or 3 faces in to take on the tour to bed those players in.
100%, mate. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. All managers want their players in early. They want to get to know their players pre-season. Bed them into the team as quickly as possible. It's difficult to know because obviously you and I, we don't sit in the boardroom at Spurs. We hear all the rumours, and a lot of the stuff I hear from people that are fairly well connected into the club, as well as you and Chris and all the other channels I watch, is that Levy is a bit of a control freak. He has got his eyes and his ears on everything. He's got his finger on every button. So I naturally go to look at him and blame him for pretty much everything. But I think the board as a whole has to take the responsibility. We pay the highest bloody ticket prices in Europe, if not the world. It just infuriates me, all the events, all the money going through that stadium, and then Levy comes out with comments like, we ain't got much money to spend and stuff like that. Well, where the fudge does all this money go that we're paying, on our season tickets and everything, and all the events money? Where does that money go? But I think the board, they have to look at themselves. And then again, they're going back 2-3 weeks ago when I've forgotten her name. Forgive me, I had a bit of a late night last night. But when that lady left the board, who was like Levy's number 2,
Donna Cullen.
Thank you, Donna Cullen. When she left, and there were rumours Levy was going to take more of a step back, and Vinay came in from Arsenal, I was optimistic that Lewis had maybe finally taken some action, said 17th place, that ain't going to happen again. That's not acceptable, and there was going to be a big reshuffle. But very little, I feel, has changed since then. Looking at the way we're moving in or not moving in the transfer market, I'm kind of gone full circle and back to doom and gloom again. And I think the board as a whole, Levy, I think, is the biggest culprit, but I think the board at a whole really have to take a long, hard look at themselves. You can't come out and tell the fans we're going to challenge for the Premier League and then the Europa League and then not back the manager, And when have we backed our managers properly in the last 5-10 years? We can all talk about the last big signings we had was Klinsmann, maybe Rafa van der Vaart, Since then, what really big players have we gone out and signed at their peak or just about to peak? There's been very few. I'm just finding it very frustrating, mate.
No, it is. It is, and I totally agree. You're preaching to the converted there. I mean, it just comes down to the fact that I'll come back to it. The manager would have wanted players in early. Yeah, all right. Thomas Frank didn't probably start till about mid-June, wasn't it? But come on, you've got to get these players in for the manager. The pre-season friendlies and everything. I know these people are fit, the players are fit, but it's not just about fitness. It's about gelling and with the teammates. It's about settling down in a new city, and it's everything that goes along with it. People only just see performances on the pitch, but there's so much else to it, isn't there? And
exactly, understanding the manager's ideas, what he wants, what he expects. Like you say, getting used to a new culture, a new language if they've come from abroad. And with Morgan Gibbs-White, I wonder, I can remember Harry Redknapp saying a few years ago when I think Tottenham had missed out on the Champions League or something. I'm sure he said, doesn't matter. If you pay the players what they want, they will come. And I wonder if that's what's happened with Gibbs White. Was it we were offering him, say, 160 grand a week, and then Forest finally turned around at the last minute and gone, here's 225 grand a week. And he's gone, all right then, and I'll stay where I am. You know, because if you add that money up, it might only seem like 50 grand a week or whatever. But if you add that up over a year or a 5-year contract, it's quite a lot of money, even to a super rich footballer. You know, so yeah. Sorry to cut you off there, but I think
no. That's you're spot on. Honestly, it's and look, we have to caveat everything we're saying with the transfer window isn't shut yet. You know, it shuts. I think it's 1st of September, isn't it? So they've got a while, and I've always said I will judge the transfer window and give it a rating and all that at the end of it, you know, when it shuts. But it's just this frustrating thing. You say, like, people around us, clubs around us, signing good players that improve their first 11, and we seem to be standing still. So it is
100%.
frustrating.
And the thing is, yes, the transfer window shuts on whenever it's the 1st of September or whatever, but we've got important games coming up. We've got the Super Cup on the 13th of August. We've got our first Premier League game, I think, a week later. You know, you don't want to start the season when you haven't got a win in your first 3 or 4 games, or you've only got a couple of points in your first 4 or 5 games. Every week, every day that goes by is so important. And most big clubs, they do their transfer business. They put the wheels in motion on those deals. You know, let's not kid ourselves. They've got those deals lined up 6 months or even a year before, usually. You know, the players and the agents, they know where they're going 6 months in advance, you know. And with Tottenham, it just doesn't seem like that. City always get their business done early. Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, it's all this mucking around in the last week of the window and to save a few quid. And again, it's just, we're not acting like a big team. It's so frustrating. We're paying ticket prices of the most expensive big team ticket prices, but we've got this board that are just acting like a bunch of clowns, and it's just lastminute.com every transfer window. And I really think it throws. It's not backing the manager. It's just making things so much harder for a manager. And, you know, this is Thomas Frank's biggest job by far. He's already got a lot to prove, you know, some would say. So, you know, they've got to back him. Go out there, get those players. I'd love to see us sign, you know, Wissa, Eze, what a great replacement for Morgan Gibbs-White. You know, Wharton, he's worth the money. Wharton's value will only go up, even if we have to pay 80, 90 million for him. You know, what a player he is. We went out and got Wissa, Eze, Wharton or Palhinha, they could turn it around very quickly. But as you can probably tell, I'm starting to lose the faith, mate, again. You know?
No, I know what you mean, and I'm beginning to feel like that myself. And the season ain't even started yet, but look, it can only get better, Jake. But look, Jake, thanks for coming on. You've made some really good points, and you're more than welcome to come back on any other time we do one of these. So thanks for coming on.
And thanks so much.
No worries.
Absolute pleasure. Sorry if I've got a bit emotional, but you know,
no, you're all right. It's all what it's all about. It's what we're here for. Thanks, Jake. See you again soon.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Bye.
Right, we're going to go all the way to Ireland, and hello to Gareth McGuinness, regular. How are you, my friend?
All good, Craig. I'm just listening to you and Jake there. Obviously done the podcast with Chris and a couple of boys yesterday, and you know, we spoke about a lot of the stuff that's happening at the club. And of course, we come off the podcast, and a few hours later, we get the closure on Morgan Gibbs-White. And I think, you know what? Obviously, it's disappointing, but I'm glad we've got that closure now, Craig. We can move on as a fan base. We can move on as a club. No one really knows what happened. You know, was it the player that changed his mind, or have we just ran into a club that are refusing to sell their best player? I mean, we've been in that situation before with Modric to Chelsea. Remember, no matter what Chelsea did, Spurs refused to sell that season, and got a similar fee the year later. And I think Forest are in that situation where I think Spurs got the buy-in from Modric that he's willing to do another year, and he was one of our best players that year. Gibbs-White's going to knuckle down. He signed an extra year extension on better terms in terms of his wages, and there possibly might be a clause on there that if a Champions League club comes in next year and pay the money up front, then nothing will stand in Forest's way. So I think it's one of those ones that maybe could be revisited next year. But as Gibbs-White holding out for a Liverpool or an Arsenal or a Man City, this is a thing we just don't know, Craig. So we need to move on now as a club. We need to look at the alternatives We've been linked, and I know you're a massive fan of Eze for a long time, but the fact we went for Gibbs White tells me that maybe we're not as interested in Eze as we were. As it to do with the structure of the payments, as it to do with the money involved, that Spurs feel Gibbs White was a better fit. So, it looks as well like Arsenal are going to get Eze as well, so that'll hurt. But there's plenty of other options out there, and as Jake pointed out, if you pay the right money, you can get nearly anyone. The unfortunate thing for us is a lot of the players will be looking at, our clubs will be looking at as well, and they might see that particular club as a better option for winning trophies. And I think that's the one thing that Bilbao has given us, a platform to build on. And if we don't build on that this summer, Craig, it's difficult to see how we can build on it next year. This was the summer they really go at it. We just won a trophy. We've shaked off that, Spursy tag. We've won a trophy. The scenes that were on Bilbao, of course, I was there. This was the moment to kick on. And you are right. There's still over a month to go in the transfer window. It's just the frustrating thing is, once again, we're going to be in that position for the Super Cup and the start of the Premier League season where we're not going to have all our business done. And we're going to be going into that final week, final few days, possibly even final day, scratching to get players on. And it doesn't always work out like that, Craig. How many lit deals have we pulled off that haven't really worked out for us as a club?
Yeah. Who would you blame for this? I know I asked that question before, but who do you blame for the Morgan Gibbs White? Sort of, let's face it, it was a fiasco, wasn't it? Who's to blame for that? Or is it a bit of both on all sides, let's face it?
We're only getting bits of information from different sources, so it's very difficult to give a complete answer. But I do think we're dealing with an owner that just refused to be beaten here on this situation. He's been in the news a lot. He's probably been the most controversial club owner of the last couple of seasons. There's been a number of issues. You think back to the Mark Clattenburg, you brought him in, and then there was an issue with Gary Neville as well, and there's now this issue. I think there was an issue with Nuno when he went onto the pitch, and he has created a lot of headlines, not just here, but there was an issue at Olympiacos as well, where I think there was a brawl on the pitch. I'm not sure he was involved, but again, it was happening at his club. So this man is surrounded in controversy, and I do feel that maybe with the error that Spurs made was, if they did get wind of what this buyout clause was, and from what I understand, it wasn't like around 60 million. We went down and nailed it to the nearest pound, and we've seen something very similar a number of years ago with Arsenal and Luis Suarez, where he had a buyout clause for 40 million and £1, and Arsenal triggered it, and of course Liverpool refused to sell, and of course he went on to have a great season, and he went to Barcelona, I think, a year later. So I mean, it's just one of those. It doesn't happen that often, but I just think in this situation, no matter what we did after we went about it with that nailed on transfer fee, Forrest had, and especially Marinakis, he had a bee in his bonnet about it, and he was never going to give in. And the only way that could have maybe been resolved was if Gibbs White really, really pushed the move in terms of handing a transfer request, like we've seen with Isak now at Newcastle, Vasa at Brentford, where they're basically saying we're going to refuse to play. But I think it was very public early on that Gibbs White, although he wanted the Spurs move, he wasn't going to force the move out because he had too much respect for Forrest. Of course, Forrest had taken a chance on him when he wasn't really fancied at Wolves. So what I'd say in Gibbs White's defence is, at least he was honoured. He honoured Forrest. He didn't want to risk his relationship with the fans. And I think if Gibbs White ends up at Spurs next year, or he ends up in our club, at least you've got a player that's committed and loyal to the club, because Vasa wasn't really known at Brentford, and Brentford have made him, Thomas Frank have made him, and now he's willing to force his way out, refusing to play. Isak as well was a player that was very, very highly rated in Spain, but there was issues with his injury record. We've seen issues with his injury record at Newcastle, but again, Newcastle paid a lot of money for him when no other club would, and now he's throwing the toys out of the pram to try and force this move through Liverpool. So whilst a lot of Spurs fans were saying, I hope Gibbs White forces the move and come on, get off your backside and do something about it, I'm not necessarily keen on players like that, because what could happen there is he could do the same to us in a few years' time. If a Real Madrid comes calling, or a Man City or a Liverpool comes calling, and we'll be saying, Gibbs White has let us down. So it's how you look at it. But I do think the one mistake we made was the transfer fee. Once we got wind of that, we should have maybe added a couple of million on it, and maybe it would have happened.
Yeah. It's very disappointing, Gareth, isn't it? Though it's we all got a bit excited, didn't we? 2 transfers in 2 days, and then of course it seems to have gone flat. But what do you think they're working on other deals in the background? Because we know Langer works in the shadows. But do you think, because there's just no rumours at all at the moment, is there?
Yeah, I think they were totally in the dark because wasn't it one of the, I know Sky Sports are kind of, everyone recalls them like Sky Slow News these days or whatever, and they're maybe behind on their sources, but there was one source who was very close to this deal, I think was Rob Dorset from the Forest site, and he was kind of dropping all these exclusives. Of course, David Ornstein got the exclusive last night, but one of the things that was says was Forest had shut down all lines of communication with Spurs, and that Gibbs White had been told not to have any contact with Spurs. So I'm not sure if they were totally in the dark up until maybe yesterday, that maybe they still felt there was opportunity, maybe later in the window, to get Gibbs White done. But obviously now you signed that contract, it's completely off the table. So maybe now they can start looking elsewhere, and maybe in the next few days we'll see more movement. But my issue now, Craig, is the tour is probably going to be the priority of Thomas Frank. He's got 8 days out there to make new connections, assess the rest of his squad in better detail against Premier League opposition. Of course, there's going to be a lot of warm weather training out there as well. So, Thomas Frank may have a list of players that he's given the recruitment team. And maybe they can work on these whilst the players is doing their training, doing their open training, doing their media work, and obviously I'm preparing the team for these 2 important games because, we spoke about it yesterday. I think it's bonkers that we're playing Arsenal in a pre-season friendly. I think it's just added pressure for, both teams. I don't know how the Arsenal game is finished, but I think they were 2-2 in Newcastle when I come on there. If Newcastle were to somehow get a result there, Arsenal fans won't be happy if Spurs turn them over, and vice versa after seeing our friendlies yesterday and our performances. If Arsenal were to beat us by a few goals, there'll be a lot of disgruntled Spurs fans, and it just adds more pressure to a situation that's, as you said, up to about 2 weeks ago. It seemed like everything was starting to change. We were getting loads of reports about, investment in the club via the stadium rights. We were going to have Kudos, we were going to have Gibbs White, and then it was also being said that Adam Martin would be a target after Spurs wrapped up the Gibbs White situation, but it all seems to have fallen quiet and fallen to the wayside, and we're back in this familiar situation again, Craig. Like, yeah. you would probably, me and these big Line of Duty fans, but kind of feel like a ginger stepchild again, don't we? Everybody else is out getting what they want, but Spurs fans are sitting with their tails between their legs as usual.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That is the thing, and we've discussed it. Is there anything else trundling along the background? Because, like you say, if they've thought that this was going to be the case with Morgan Gibbs White for the last 2 weeks, we've been in the dark, as you say. But would the club have known that and known it's kind of off the table? And surely you'd be going about your business trying to do something else, And are they looking at somebody like Eze? It looks like he wants to go to Arsenal, and he's told people that he wants to. He's an Arsenal fan, I believe. I don't know, but that's certainly looking the case. And when you look how Arsenal have strengthened, and that, let's face it, it's horrible to say, but Arsenal are head and shoulders above Tottenham at the moment, and they've only got stronger.
Yeah, well, the last few seasons, I think obviously that year we finished in the top 4 above Arsenal. That magnificent night at the new stadium, possibly the best night at the new stadium, maybe up there with the first leg of the Bodo Lump game in terms of the atmosphere. But that you would kind of say at that stage we were on an even par. Arsenal, Spurs have maybe dropped off after the Pochettino, and Arsenal were starting to come out of that Wenger and Emery phase where they were starting to get stronger. And you thought at that stage, well, the fact we got Champions League football, we've been in such a strong position, but we made a lot of mistakes with recruitment, a lot of mistakes with managers. Arsenal have given Arteta proper backing, and there's a gap now as big as there's been since really the Martignol days, really, where Spurs were kind of starting to get closer to Arsenal under Martignol, and then you'd Harry Redknapp close that gap, and Pochettino then seen them leapfrog. There's probably not been a bigger gap than there's been for a number of years. Of course, now Spurs have got that trophy in Bilbao, and you're kind of thinking, well, is this going to be the start of a new Spurs era of there's going to start competing and winning trophies? But unless we get the players in, and I've spoken about this a number of times, Craig, you look at the Premier League now, when Pochettino was in charge of Spurs, it was possibly the right time for a club. We got a lot of good young players and maybe got a bit fortunate, but Pochettino as though he was a great manager, he benefited from a situation where Arsenal were struggling, Liverpool were struggling, Man United had just come out of that Ferguson era, they were struggling. Chelsea were successful, but they were chopping and changing a lot of managers, and Leicester won the league that year, and then Chelsea come back under Conte and won the league. So at that time, Pep Guardiola had just come on to Man City, so Jurgen Klopp had still not arrived at Liverpool. So it was the perfect time to strike. And at the moment, you look at Man City, they're going to get stronger again now after that bad season they had last year. Liverpool seem to be getting stronger and stronger with every window that passes now. You've got the likes of Newcastle and Newcastle and Aston Villa who have come onto the scene. Forest, the owner seems really ambitious, despite what we say about him. He seems really ambitious. So you're now in a situation where there's a lot of competition just to maybe finish in the top 6. Whereas a few years ago, it was top 4. Whereas now you're looking at every season, you're thinking there could be 2 good sides that miss out on Champions League football every season. So there really is no time for 5 and 10 years. Yes, there should be a 5-year project in place for where you want to be in 5 years' time, but there's no time to get players on. This could be a player. In fact, we need players to compete now. We're in the Champions League this season. So it's a really difficult one because of the strength around us. It probably prompts the owners and the injecting some cash into this club because we will get left behind. We struggled last year to compete with Europa League football and Premier League football. So the Champions League, we're going to have to go with your strongest team most games. Whereas in the Europa League, we never really had a player strongest team until the knockout phase. So there's going to be an added pressure for us to get players on them. We said it yesterday. I do have a theory about the Thomas Frank organising the 2 games. Maybe it was a message to the board as we need 2 players in every position. Look at our 2 squads we fielded yesterday. We're in no position to challenge on these multiple fronts that we need. And if we were to get injuries, you're looking at situations where Jamie Donnelly going to have to go and play at left back. Are we going to have to shift Tell, who's a winger, and they playing as a striker? There's massive gaping holes in the squad, and it's a massive concern at the moment. So how do we fix it? I think during this tour now, Thomas Frank needs to find out quickly, and of course it's not his fault, but he needs to find out quickly his best team with what he has available, where the gaps are in the starting 11 that he'd like to improve, and who are the players in the squad that he really doesn't want to be part of the future, and get them off the books as quickly as possible. And if that means you have to sacrifice a few million of what you think they're worth, then so be it, because there's no doubt there's issues there with streamlining the squad in terms of the wages as well. You can't just go out and sign 4 or 5 players and have nobody coming off the books. Now I do think there's things like Son, the tour in Asia has definitely stalled his move. It looks nailed on that he's going to go after the tour. But I think there's issues around the likes of Basuma with fees and getting the club for him that he wants to go to, and maybe matching the wages that he's on here. So if that means we have to maybe pay players off to get them off the books, then so be it, because it's these situations that keep coming up every year where we can't get the players out that we really need, and it holds us back from getting on the players that we really want. And there has to be some sort of domino effect in the club where we've been trying to do this for a number of years and it's really not worked. As great as it was in Bilbao, Craig, last year, there was an element of fortune in it. There was no real strong teams in that competition. And we benefited. Yes, credit to the players in the final, but it was an awful standard of football in that final. And in any other season, we may have found it difficult to win that competition. So it has to be used as a platform now to kick on. And we're never in this situation again where we're having to play Archie Gray at centre back, Jed Spence at left back, and a makeshift midfield of players with no real Premier League experience because there's not enough investment in the squad.
Yeah, you've made a lot of really good points there, Gareth. Gareth, thanks for coming on at such short notice, mate. I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your Sunday and watch the F1 or darts or whatever it is you're going to be doing.
It'll be the All-Ireland Gaelic final here today. So Kerry's taking on Donegal. So that kicks off. The throw-ins at 3:30. So in about 40 minutes time. So I'll look forward to that.
You go and enjoy that, mate. Thanks for coming on, Gareth, as always. And I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Cheers, Craig. Thank you.
Cheers, Gareth. Okay, I'm now going to go and speak to Gary. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Craig. How are you, mate? You okay?
I'm all good. What would you like to moan about? Talk to us about.
Oh, mate, I'm going to have a proper moan. Don't you worry about that.
You go for it, mate. Say whatever you want.
Yeah, just 3 things, really. Number one, Marinakis. Fair play to him. Hats off. A bigger club, or in our perception, a bigger club has come in for his star player, if you like. He's not having none of it. He's found a loophole. He's found a way. He's shown ambition. He's managed to keep Gibbs White. Whether it's money, whether it's this, we'll never know that. But he's managed to keep him. He's building for the future. He wants to be where we should be, if you like. And hats off to him. I'd love our chairman to be that ambitious. I'd love our chairman when, Atletico Madrid or whoever comes in for Romero to say no, it's not happening, regardless of he's staying. Unfortunately, that's not how we operate. Hats off to Marinakis, number one. Number two, I want to talk about Arsenal. I know it's a swear word, and I apologise in advance, but they, like the other top teams, have gone out. Your Chelsea's, even Man United, City, Liverpool. They've all gone out and shown a statement of intent, as have Arsenal. 4 quality players added to their squad. And now they're turning their attention evidently to Eze, regardless of where Eze wants to go or doesn't want to go. We don't know that. They've turned their attention to Eze. We've turned our attention evidently to Harvey Elliott.
Yeah.
Really? Seriously? So hence the tagline there, fed up. It's really frustrating, Craig. Third thing I want to talk about, people are talking about we need 2 or 3 players. We really don't. We need at least 5. That's including your Tell, your Danso, and this, that, and the other. We need another 5 players. We need a left back. We need a left-sided forward player. We need a number 6 or a defensive midfielder. We need an attacking midfielder. And we need a striker, because the 2 strikers we got blatantly are not good enough, in particularly Richarlison. I've made some notes. Left back Anthony Robinson. Central midfield or number 6, Paulinho. Attacking midfielder, Javi Simmons. Left-sided forward, Rafael Leao. And striker, Sesko.
That's a lovely list, Gary.
That's
I must
the sort
admit.
of players, Craig, that we
Can
should
we have
be going for. There's 250 to 300 million quid's worth of players there. That's the players we should be going for.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Villa. His name leaves me now, the guy from Ramsey. Really? Seriously, Craig? Seriously? All you hear from Levy and from Vinay, we want to win the Champions League. We want to win the league. We want to do this. We want to do that. Then go and buy that calibre of player.
Yeah, and that's just it, isn't it? You've hit the nail on the head, and I've said that a few times today, but the guests have been really good. Harvey Elliott, as good a player as he is, young kid, still finding his feet in the Premier League, let's be honest, it wouldn't really inspire the fan base, would it? Or his teammates coming in. Good player. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing him, but
no, I'm not.
We need more. We need more than that. You're right.
Look,
we need these.
You can't go from a Gibbs White to a Harvey Elliott. It's like what really gets my goat, Craig, and that's done for years because it's always been the same. If we want to go for a player, so say like for example, we're interested in Eze, yeah. Regardless of what's being regurgitated around the media, we don't know what he wants and what he doesn't want. I'm not even sure the club potentially know, but because Arsenal are interested in him, it's an easy. Oh, we'll back off. We don't know. If we don't go for him, we should be taking the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Chelsea. I hear it all the time. Oh well, we better. If we don't do something quick, Chelsea be in for him, and you know what happens then. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It shouldn't be like that, Craig. It's like if you're walking home from school, and like me, for you, that was probably many years ago now. But if you're walking to school, and the bully, the school bully comes up to you and says, "Give me your dinner money," you don't just keep giving him dinner money, do you? Do you know what I mean? You say, "No, you're not having it." Well, if you don't give me the dinner money, I'm going to beat you up. Come on, then, let's go. He might beat you up, but I'll guarantee you won't come back. So he doesn't want that smoke again. He knows you're going to stand up to him. So it just really, really, really frustrates me, and I am fed up with the attitude of our board. That's why I said in my opening line, Marinakis, fair play. That guy's got ambition. Our board haven't, and if we're not careful, we're just going backwards, Craig. We were lucky to win that Europa League last season. That was 2 months ago. Yeah. Think back to 2 months ago on May the 21st, how you felt. Now look how you feel now.
That's right. But I stupidly probably thought, as I've said before, that things were going to be a little bit different this transfer window. You know, all right, I wasn't expecting tons in June because Frank was coming in and he, you know, I know we all hate it. He wants to have a look at all the players. And he may well have thought, I want to keep a player at the club that perhaps the majority of the fan base don't think is good enough, right? But that's the manager. He's in the post, we're not. So that's fine. But come on, you know, we're at the end of July now and we've bought in Kudus to improve the first team. It's not good enough.
Who is a good player, to be fair.
He is.
But again, you know, just highlighted in my opinion anyway, and I think most fans are along a similar, you know, have got a similar thought process. You know, we're going to be playing Champions League. We need to catch up in the league because we were awful last year. As Gabby Abonhall would say, you're miles off it, absolutely miles off it in every respect. You look at, I use Arsenal as the, you know, I hate to do it, but they've just gone out and bought, you know, is it Norgard or Damsgaard, whatever one it is. They've bought Zubamendi, Madueke, and they've topped it off with what I believe will be the game changer for them, Gyökeres. What have we done? Sweet bugger all.
Fanny Adams. Yeah, he's right. Yeah. And you're right. Gyökeres was one of the ones that I would love to have seen Spurs show ambition and gone for. Sesko, it's funny, you're thinking very similar to me. Sesko is another one. But I'm not sure. You know, there's been rumours he could be on his way somewhere else, but I don't know.
Even so, the worrying thing for me is, have we actually highlighted him as a potential target? Because that, for me, is the sort of player that we should be going for. If Daniel Levy is genuine in everything he says in that interview, then Benjamin Sesko should be the type of player we go for. Do you know what I mean? Okay. Morgan Gibbs-White was quite happy going for him. I think he'll make a difference. Harvey Elliott will not. Jacob Ramsey will not. They're mediocre players. You know, Paulinho, I think, will make a difference. You know, but
Adam Morton, would you take Adam Morton?
Absolutely. And I'd go out and bang, there you go, 80 million opening bid. Let's see what you're saying. And if they say no, all right, then there's 90. You know what I mean? You know, if we want to be a big club and we want to get to the dizzy heights that Daniel Levy suggests that we do, then open your checkbook, go and be aggressive, and go and put some bids in. Go after Eze. If he's on our list, if we want Eze, go and test the situation. And if Eze doesn't come, okay, fine, you tried. Make Arsenal think about it. Make Eze think about it. Make Crystal Palace think about it. The fact of the matter is, we will never go toe to toe. We'll only go toe to toe with, I don't know, a Bournemouth or a Leeds, or you know what I mean. We won't go toe to toe with Liverpool. We might not get the player. Chances are we won't get the player. But show your intent. Show some ambition. Stop buying 20, 30 million pound players, because they're not getting you anywhere. It's great to have a conveyor belt of kids. You know, I shouldn't call them kids, but younger players. But ultimately, they're not going to win. They're not going to take you to where you want to get to in the here and now. And I don't even mean the here and now being this season. In the next year or two or three. Then half of them, I mean, some of them are like 17. You know what I mean? It's just like frightening. And then we get all excited when Luka Vuskovic, what his name is, when he has one good game, everyone's like, oh yeah, we won't need to buy a defender, right? Honestly, mate, it's just outrageous. We need to be buying top quality. We need to show our intent. Daniel Levy, the board, Vinay, whoever, need to go out and show some ambition. And if Langer isn't the man to be able to get these players over the line, target these particular players, identify them, and go and get them, then he needs to go.
You've made a lot of good points, Gary, and I agree with a lot of them. Thanks so much for coming back on the Fan Show.
Welcome.
You're always welcome, mate. And we will be doing another one very, very soon. As I say, yeah, lovely. Thanks for coming on, Gary. And come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely. Come on, you Spurs.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Gary.
Dave.
Take care.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye. Right, that's all the guests we've got today. That's the only people that actually wanted to come on. So thanks so much for everybody that came on today. Bit more of a shorter one. Look, let's hope that Spurs turn this around, or rather the transfer window around, and we can get in players, because that seemed to be the main topic of what everybody wanted to talk about today. Desperately unhappy news about Morgan Gibbs-White now staying at Forest. The majority of the fan base, I'm sure, wanted Morgan Gibbs-White, but we move on again. But we must get players in for this manager, because he's going to be set up to fail if they don't. The club really needs to start acting soon, and acting like a big club, as Gary just said. This club, honestly, wouldn't have it any other way, would you really? Yeah, probably would, let's be honest. Anyway, that's all for today. I really hope everybody enjoyed the show. And if you do want to get in touch, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com for the next fan show. Come on and give us your views. And you can come on and talk about anything you want. That's all for me today. Come on, you Spurs.